friends, it's Jasmine, and I hope that you all are doing well. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I am a witchy content creator here on YouTube and other platforms as well. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. It's good to see you here, and let's get into today's video. So in today's video, this one is going to be kind of a longer one, so you might want to grab yourself a drink. I am currently trying to finish my water for the day. As you can see, we are very behind. But yeah, grab yourself a drink, grab yourself something to snack on. Maybe try listening to this as a podcast if you don't want to stare at my face for however long this video takes. But it is going to be a longer one, but I'm really, really excited to do it. So I saw this tag. I think it was on Instagram last night is when I saw it. And I was kind of like skimming through it or whatever. And I was like, I kind of think I want to try that, but that looks like a lot at the same time. A lot, but a lot. And I wasn't really sure when I was going to actually have the time to be able to do this and actually dedicate myself to really doing the full tag, because I'm that kind of girl that if I can't give 100% of myself to something, I would actually rather not do it at all. However, we all have the same 24 hours in a day, I guess. And I was thinking about it today about how, I really want to do that, but I've got a really busy weekend. Today's Friday as I'm filming this, and I don't know when I'm going to have a chance to. And then I saw my friend Leanne Smith's video today, and she had done the tag. And I actually listened to her video like while at work, kind of as like a podcast. And I had to listen to it in parts because her video was decently long, as I'm sure mine will probably be too, because there's a lot of really good prompts in this tag. But I watched Leanne's kind of like in little bits and pieces while I was at work, and then I listened to it on my way home, and I just fell even more in love with this prompt. And this is by the Polish Folk Witch, another amazing content creator. If you're not already familiar with them, go check them out. I will link them down below. And I'm also going to link Leanne's video because I had watched hers, really, really enjoyed it. Go check her out too. So this is the hashtag Occult, which I love that title. Okay. And if you catch me kind of like looking down over this way, I'm looking at my laptop. I have this pulled up there. Social media witchcraft, grifters, aesthetics, imposter syndrome, consumerism, and gatekeeping. A community conversation about the things that divide us.
Don't you just love that? Come on.
Also, I added some little pink pieces and these like pink tinsel pieces into my hair. And I really feel like I'm just in a My Little Pony era right now. I don't know if that's translating well or not, but I feel like, the dolls, we have two forms, right? I either feel like
infernal goth mommy baddie,
or I want to be like
Maiden of Immortal Flowers, Pink Princess.
And we're kind of giving both right now, but this is like, I feel like the phase that I'm in, like we're switching from winter to spring. And I feel like every winter and spring, I kind of get like this pink era. I don't know. It's very core Persephone, if you will, but here's where we're at. So I don't know if I'll still have the pink by the time I actually release this or not, but I think this might be like my first video, minus the Black Lent videos where I have the pink and the sparkles in. So I'm glad that this can just be immortalized on the YouTubes. Anyway, into the prompt. So starting with an introduction, introduce yourself. How long have you been practicing witchcraft in the online space, and what practices and topics do you primarily discuss? So my name is Jasmine, like I said earlier, and that is my real name. Like, it's not a stage name, it's not a pseudonym, like Jasmine is my name. And I am Jasmine Ambrosia across almost all social media platforms, with the exception of my TikTok is 3 obsidian eyes. And for the most part, I make content in relation to like my everyday life and to just witchcraft in general, to being part of American traditional witchcraft as like a magical background, being part of a coven, and what that is kind of like. I have been chronically online most of my adult life. And I've been on YouTube, I want to say, for about 7 years, maybe 8-ish. But most of my social media platforms, that's the kind of stuff that I make content about. So my content can range depending on the platform, from just day-to-day life kind of style vlogs to witchcraft related content to divination based content, occult content. I also have the live show Daughters of Cain, where myself and Australia talk about various topics. I used to have a podcast as The Cauldron Bubbles, which is here on YouTube that you can check out. Yeah, and then like on TikTok, it's mostly like thirst traps, shit posting. Like, I don't post as seriously there. Not that I take myself super seriously on YouTube, but like I have a niche, right? And that is witchcraft, folklore, paganism, American traditional witchcraft, covenry, ceremonial magic to a degree, a lot of hedgecraft, witchflight. I recently published my first book and it's all about witchflight. So lately that's been a lot of stuff on my channel. Okay, so the first question, what is my personal reasoning or inspiration behind sharing my practice online? For me, I first got into YouTube specifically just because I wanted to connect to the wider community. And I would say that that's still my intention for why I'm still here on YouTube almost a decade later. And yes, I've literally been here for close to a decade. You can go back and watch some of my older videos and see me in my early 20s. I turned 30 last September. So there's a whole lot of practice and a whole lot of development from a craft standpoint, but also like growing into the woman that I've become being chronically online, right? And I started this just because I wanted to connect with the wider occult and witchy community. And that's still why I'm here. What am I looking to achieve by participating? Do I seek to educate, learn, or connect? Definitely connect, I think would be like the key word. I think that the internet and specifically social media is very much what you make of it. And I mean, its intention is networking and connecting. Now, whether that networking and connecting equals like monetization or coins, I think is kind of up to the individual creator. But for me, the main purpose is just connection and talking with other like-minded people, speaking with other magical folks from different various practices. Like, that's why I got into this. And again, that's also what keeps me here. As far as teaching, I've been in and out of a teaching sphere, also like for the past 5-6 years teaching at a brick and mortar metaphysical store. And I love that. I love doing that like in person. I don't know if my online content is necessarily what I would call educational. Like I've done some things, but it's mostly like, I feel like I'm kind of just talking to like, well, the camera, but also like, I guess anyone who would listen, but it's kind of more just like we're having this discussion and I'm just like sharing my thoughts and that's that. I don't really feel like I'm positioning myself as an instructor per se. Now I do have a Patreon and I do have all of my workshops, classes, and courses and lectures linked on my Patreon. So I guess in that way, like I'm kind of an educator. But those are also teaching things like RWS Tarot, for example. That's a very specific divination system. Or modern standard Western astrology, like systemized things. I wouldn't call myself like a witchcraft teacher per se. Definitely maybe more so with divination. But that's not really what I do on YouTube. Like that's over on my Patreon, you know? I know that for myself, I definitely use YouTube a lot for learning. If there's particular subjects that I'm interested in, oftentimes I will like hyper focus and just fall down the rabbit hole as deep as I can go into whatever subject that's interesting me. So I definitely use YouTube to learn as well. So the next question is, how do I believe social media as a whole has impacted the community? Again, I think social media is very much what you make of it. Like, it can be a blessing or it can kind of be a curse, and it can also be both at the same time. I think overall, the internet and social media has really brought a lot of growth into the craft. I think that there's a lot more people that have been able to access, you know, different knowledge and communicate with different sorts of people that, you know, maybe homegirl in the middle of nowhere, Arkansas, wouldn't necessarily have the same access to. I mean, I think before the internet, like, the craft was a very, very different beast, right? Versus now, it's different. I mean, I remember Witchfox, where like various covens and groups would be, you know, listed online and you could write to them and communicate with them. And Witchfox is no longer, but now we have all of these websites and we have social media platforms. So I think it's just kind of changed. I definitely would say overall, I would say it's for the good. Social media has affected the craft because of just how much more people can connect and grow and learn together, and how information can be shared so much more quickly, and how people who maybe wouldn't have had the same amount of access into the craft now do. Now, with that, I think that there's also like tons of problematic misinformation and like just kind of stupid shit that I see shared around on the internet, but like that's kind of the catch of it, you know? And then also making the craft more commercialized and bringing capitalism deeper into witchcraft, I definitely think is kind of part of the expansion and how social media has been affected. Or I definitely think that's a way that social media has affected the craft, I guess I should say. Again, overall, I would say that social media has had a positive impact on witchcraft. Again, just because it's made witchcraft and folk magic and ceremonial magic and initiatory witchcraft more accessible. How do I think social platforms such as TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube have impacted education and the sharing of information? I definitely think that TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube are all very different platforms. And so I think that they've affected the sharing of education and information in very unique ways. TikTok is a quick content sort of platform. I don't know. I don't really go to TikTok for education. I find witch talk in general, like that whole category on TikTok, a little gross and like annoying sometimes, if I'm being completely honest. I don't really go to TikTok for that. I go to TikTok just kind of for basic entertainment, for like funny skits. I also really like trauma talk and like kind of processing through, I don't want to say shadow work, but like sad girl hours and trauma talk on TikTok, like navigating spaces of grief and family trauma and addictions. I find that is what I watch. Also, I watch a lot of food stuff on TikTok, like a lot of different recipes or food hacks. I don't really go to TikTok for witchery. So I can't really speak for that other than it's just quicker based content. Like you don't necessarily need to have as much of an attention span per se, other than you're just scrolling. And I've definitely gotten caught up in like the doom scrolling where you're like, you just kind of open the app and you start kind of scrolling, and the next thing you know, 2 or 3 hours have passed by. And that's very much, I think, how they've designed that app to be. So it works. I guess kudos to them on that. But yeah, I don't really go to TikTok for witchcraft related content. I wouldn't say I go to Instagram for witchcraft related content either. And I don't really spend a ton of time on my Instagram, which is Jasmine Ambrosia. I use Instagram primarily for like connecting with people or like talking in the DMs or just posting little snippets here and there. But I'm not really on Instagram as an app for anywhere near the length of time that I'm on TikTok. Like I could be on TikTok scrolling for an hour or two. I'm not on Instagram like that. And I also don't really go to Instagram, like I've said, for like witchcraft related content. Now, I definitely follow a good amount of witches and interact with witches on Instagram. I initially saw this tag on Instagram. So I wouldn't say it's completely irrelevant, but I don't really feel like I can speak to the education and sharing of information aspect on Instagram. As far as YouTube goes, like when it comes to education, I feel like the platform like YouTube just can offer educators something more because you can make longer content. And I think that the people that are watching YouTube tend to have a longer attention span than the people that are watching, 3-minute or less quick little videos scrolling on TikTok. So, and I know that for me, a lot of times when I'm watching a video specifically to learn more about something, whether it be, it could be anything really, but like if I'm watching something based off of a particular spirit or tradition or style of practice or whatever, even gaming's related stuff. Like I play World of Warcraft and I will watch a video of a raid before I do that raid, so I kind of know what to expect, right? So I'm going to YouTube for more education than I am Instagram or TikTok. And a lot of the times I have it on in the background. Like I'm not even always actually watching the video. I might be listening to it while I drive or clean, kind of more like a podcast. Is consuming witchcraft content becoming a substitute for practice? Oh, I don't know. I would say for me, no. Consuming witchcraft content is not becoming a substitute for my practice. And my practice, for me and my practice, like number one, I'm definitely a solitary practitioner also while being in a coven. And what I mean by that is I have my own practice. That's me and that's my practice. Things that I do on a day-to-day or weekly, monthly, or lunarly sort of basis. But then I also have like the Coven craft, and we are getting together for various Esbats and Sabbats. And honestly, that really helps keep me on track in my practice because I have other people also kind of holding me accountable. And then I've talked about this on my channel before, but I'm also in the Red Thread Academy, which is an amazing online-based American traditional witchcraft academy. Absolutely love it. I'm in my year 2 of that now. So that kind of keeps me accountable and active in my craft too, because I'm doing these assignments, I'm turning them in, and I'm engaging with our fellow RTA community. So all of those spheres of influence, be it my solitary craft, my coven craft, and my, we'll call it academy sphere, keeps me on track in my witchcraft practice and keeps me growing and accountable. So consuming content doesn't really replace my practice in any way. I do love watching other traditional witchcraft creators, and I do love watching even more specifically other American traditional witchcraft content creators because I enjoy being able to watch someone with a practice that I know is going to be very similar to mine. That's not to say that I don't enjoy watching practitioners from other traditions or even eclectic practitioners, but that's primarily a lot of the witches that I go back to and watch their content. There's also some witches that I've kind of developed a friendship with that I watch their content, not necessarily because I'm going to them to learn something per se, as I just enjoy their energy and I enjoy having them playing on my phone while I'm doing my laundry because it makes me feel a little less lonely. And I feel like I'm having this connection with this other person and I'm listening to how they talk and what they're passionate about, And I definitely think that that can be kind of weird sometimes because social media can create these sort of parasocial relationships. And I personally have definitely been on both sides of that. And it's weird, like the whole parasocial nature of content creators and wanting to connect with subscribers, but also trying to navigate that. It can be kind of tricky on both sides of things. But is consuming witchcraft related content becoming a substitution for craft? Again, I can only really speak for myself. And for me, definitely not. But I can see maybe how it could be. For people that maybe lack a lot of community locally, wanting to have that interaction with like-minded people, I can completely relate to that. And also kind of like haul videos. How many of us, I know I do, love a good haul video, and you watch this person kind of talk about and show all of these things that they bought, but like you don't buy any of it. You're not the one spending money. You're not the one going out and buying these things. You're watching someone else do that. Or how many of us watch other people play video games? That's weird, right? Like, we're watching them play a game, but we enjoy it because we like it. Now, for some people, is watching someone else play a video game a substitute for them playing the game? Maybe. I know that for me, when I go through my phases where I'm like really deep into playing World of Warcraft, I will watch content in relation to the game when I can't play the game, like when I'm driving or cleaning or whatever. So I think that could also apply to the witch world as well. Okay, this is topic number 2, and this is influencer authenticity. Out of what I share on social media, how much of it is staged versus reality? Girl, all of it is staged. No, I'm kidding. So here's something to know, if you don't already, okay? I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. The internet
That is fake.
like nothing you see on the internet is real. All of this is fake. All of this is contextualized and created and curated. Now, there can be authenticity within that, but there is still some curation to the media to an extent, right? So how much of it is stage versus reality? I think that would depend on creator to creator. I know that for me, I share a lot of personal stuff on my platform, but I'm still going to film in a specific way. Like, I'm not just going to come on to Beyonce's internet fresh up out of bed. That's not me. Does that make me less authentic? I don't think so. Do I think that there is an element of censorship in online spaces? And how do I decipher what is appropriate to share online versus what to keep private? Is this based on social media etiquette or personal preference? Okay. So first, do I think there's an element to censorship in online spaces? Of course there is. Every single app has their own list of guidelines of what is allowed to be on the app and what is not allowed to be on the app. And furthermore, as a creator, I can definitely say that there are some things I will share on YouTube with everyone on Beyonce's internet. Okay? There are things I will put out there, and I put out a lot. Okay? I share a lot. Some things that some people have even told me before, like, oh, Jasmine, are you really going to post that? Yeah, I am. But there are other things that I will share on my Patreon behind the security of a paywall because there's a sense of protection there. You know, people who are just trolling you on the internet are a lot less likely to pay $5 to troll you. So there are some things that are very personal or very intimate that I will only share on Patreon because there is that security and that safety there. And there are other things that I will definitely share openly, and I've shared a lot openly. And there are some things that I just don't share at all online, period. For me, how do I decipher what is appropriate? If it is in relation to anyone else, unless I have their expressed permission, I'm not going to post that. You know what I mean? I share things related to me. So it's also very rare that you will find me talking about my significant other, my family, my job. Like, I don't really go into a lot of explicit detail about any of those things because it's not really related to the type of media that I create. I talk about myself, and I talk about my magic, and I talk about witchcraft. And so if it's not connected in with that, I'm probably not going to mention it on my channel. I like to keep my personal life private. And that's just the way I've always been. Have I ever encountered or heard of grifters in our community? Do I recognize them? And what are significant signs of grifters in the community? Have I ever encountered a grifter in the community? Honey, you're looking at one. No, I'm kidding. I'm pretty sure the definition of a grifter is like a scammer and a fraud, right? So I have a loud ass mouth, and I have been known to get into some shit before online because I do speak my mind, and just because you're another content creator doesn't mean that I'm not going to at you in the comment section if I feel it's appropriate to. I am quite adversarial and have never had a problem speaking how I feel or speaking my mind. And so if I see something that doesn't sit right with me, you're probably going to hear it from me before you would ever hear it from anybody else, which I think is an admirable trait, but it's definitely gotten me into trouble quite a few times. And I'm going to continue to do it. So if that makes me a grifter, I will happily wear that badge because I'm fine with being a villain. I'm fine with being a bitch. And I'm fine with making the room uncomfortable. Like, I will be that girl if I have to be that girl. You know, I don't want to always have to be that girl, but sometimes that's what the vibe calls for, you know? As far as like fraud and like sketchy, scandalous shit like that, yeah, I mean, I think Leanne said it really well in her video. There's people that, you know, slide into your DMs and do the grand rising, my beloved, and they're impersonating psychics, tarot readers, or even just witchy content creators trying to get people to buy a reading. That's scandalous, of course. Or people pushing like just shady practices, like in exchange for money, or trying to sell you something, right? Now, in a way, all of us as content creators are kind of selling ourselves to the platform and to the algorithm. So I think everyone is kind of selling something, if I'm being completely honest. Even if they're not pushing a workshop, a class, a product, whatever, their presence alone is kind of selling their image. So yeah, I don't know. What tools are helpful to decipher misinformation? And how can we as a community prevent widespread misinformation? This one I think is really tricky because also I have a kind of controversial take here. There is a wider magical community. There is even, I would say, somewhat of a pagan community to an extent. But the truth is we're a bunch of small, like little pockets. There is not one universal community. So because of that, the community can't really ever be controlled in any way, made safer in hardly any way, because there isn't really a tangible community across the board. I think that if you are initiated into or following any specific tradition, then you have that, the boundaries of that tradition, right? But as far as like just general eclectic witchcraft online, there's no way to do that. I don't know how he would do that. And as far as paganism, like, I think that a lot of neo-paganism has just kind of evolved into everything is valid. So if everything is valid, how is there really misinformation? I don't believe in that. I don't believe everything's valid. Obviously, I believe that misinformation is a thing. That's kind of part of the reason why I just find witch talk sometimes kind of like nauseating. But it is entertaining to see, to a degree, like some of the fuck shit. Like, it is entertaining. As far as protecting people from misinformation, babes, I don't think that that's a thing. I think that that duty and responsibility is going to fall on the individual practitioner to be able to determine what is and isn't right for them. If they're following a specific tradition, then they will have some sort of guidelines within that tradition to guide them through that truth. And if they're not, they just need to also apply the same amount of I guess, passion and energy to understand what's true and what's not true. And really, I guess that applies whether you're in a tradition or not. Do your own research, follow your own intuition, see what feels right to you, you know? Google is free. Google is probably our generation's most powerful grimoire that we've ever had any form of access to. I mean, the internet is exactly what you make of it. It can be a powerful, powerful tool. I mean, think about all the information that we have at our fingertips at the drop of a hat. So in terms of misinformation, I think the burden of preventing that is on the individual. I don't see how anyone could really police the community, nor do I think that that's what we would want at all. Okay, I think it's time for a water break. How does a large following impact the perception of the creator? Does this immediately make them an expert, or are there other assumptions as to why they may have a large following? You know, I don't really get into this, to be honest. I get the question, but I don't think that having a large or a small following would make anyone an expert or not an expert. I think having a larger following just kind of plays into their success on the app. And that's really it. A lot of people have big followings because they're entertaining. A lot of people have big followings because they're like feel-good creators. You know what I mean? Like there's other witches that I follow just because their content is beautiful and aesthetic and relaxing. But honey, I'm not learning a damn thing from their content, and I'm not going to them for that. I'm going and clicking on their video because I know that it's just going to be a vibe. And sometimes that's what you want, is just a vibe, you know? I think when I see someone with a large following that they're an expert, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And also, if we're talking about like the witchcraft sphere, I mean, even having 500 to 1,000 subscribers is a large following in our very, very small niche, right? Like in our subgenre here on YouTube, even having 500 subscribers is a huge accomplishment and something to be proud of. It's great if you're proud of having thousands upon thousands of followers, but even some like bigger name content creators within our genre are still a very, very, very small fish when it comes to the overall platform with people that have millions and billions or whatever of followers. And also, here's some tea. Okay, for the occult tea, here's some real tea, okay? There's a website called Social Blade. I don't know if y'all are familiar with this website or not, but I encourage you to go onto Social Blade, okay? Think of this as a social experiment for how your perception may be altered based off of a following count, right? Because a lot of times people think, oh, people with a bunch of subscribers or followers or whatever are making tons and tons of money. And the reality is like, that's just not the case for most people. You go onto Social Blade, you can type in someone's like username. You could type in Jasmine Ambrosia if you want to. You can pull me up, okay? You can pull up any other creator that you may watch and just be nosy. Don't feel bad about it. Girl, me too. You type their name in and it will show you all of their analytics and a rough average of how much they're bringing in monthly and yearly. And you will be gagged and gooped as to how little some of these really big name creators are actually making. Now, there's money to be made through these social media apps, sure. My content's monetized. I'm on Patreon. I'm generating some money from my social media accounts, but girl, I'm not living off this. Like, this is just extra fun money, and it's kind of like an added incentive. It's not the incentive, and it's not the only reason why I do this, but it is a nice added incentive. And then also, by having a platform, it can kind of platform other things. Like, I don't think my first book would have been nearly as successful if I hadn't been on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube with the platform that I have. And my platform is relatively small compared to the big fish on the wider YouTube, or even people with larger followings than me in the witchcraft world. I'm still like a pretty small creator. A lot of it has to do with the algorithm too. You could be an amazing content creator and have really cool stuff to say, but if those videos aren't getting out there, people just aren't seeing it. I don't believe that anyone is necessarily a bad content creator. I mean, girl, I just turn my phone on and talk to it. Okay. And then I put it into iMovie on my iPhone and I edit out me like picking my nose or pulling hair out of my face. Okay. It's not super hard. It's not super challenging. It really isn't. I believe that anyone who wants to can definitely try their hand at it. And I don't think that there is such thing as like a bad content creator. You know, when I apply this to other forms of creation of a more spicy variety, there is a viewer for just about anything. Okay, there is someone who wants to hear what you have to say and watch you. Just like in spicy content, like there's someone that is going to be into that, whatever that might be. It's rule 34, if you know what I'm saying. How does one maintain the balance of authenticity and content creation? I don't know. I mean, the balance between authenticity and content creation. How do you make content that people want to watch while also being yourself? I mean, I think you just do. You just do that. You make videos in relation to whatever the hell you want to talk about. You share whatever the hell you want to share, what you're passionate about. And I'm a big believer that if you build it, they will come. Okay? Now, that might look different for everyone. I've known content creators that in their first 6 months have their first 1,000, right? I've been on YouTube for, I think, like I said, 6, maybe 8 years, and this is where I'm at. I'm very happy with that. But also for me, I got on this app and I started making content because I wanted to interact with other people. It wasn't so much like I was thinking I'm going to quit my job and make content full time. That's very unreasonable. And even huge content creators are having a hard time really trying to live off of just Google AdSense revenue from YouTube. Okay. And most content creators that are doing this full time with no other side gigs are on multiple different platforms and are doing multiple different things. They're making content, they're teaching, they're selling books, they're doing workshops. Maybe they have a brick and mortar store, you know? So it's levels and it's layers to it. And at the end of the day, it's what you make of it. And so if you want your content to remain as authentic to you as possible, I believe that you will do that as a creator. And for me, I just share where I'm at. Like I said, I've been chronically online pretty much all of my 20s. You can Google me. You can find all types of crazy shit that'll pop up. Things I've said, done, shared throughout the years because I've kind of grown up online. And I know that's not everyone's bag, but that's been my experience. I did say earlier, there are some things that I'm just not going to share online, like private matters in relation to my family, and specific things like that I don't share because it's not relevant to the content I make. And if I ever have friends of mine, on my channel or what have you, I've gotten their permission, and it's also in relation to witchcraft. I definitely think that you can maintain your authenticity while also protecting yourself. You're not going to post your address online because that's just not a good idea, common sense wise, right? So that's why there are just some things that I keep private. And again, just because they're not relevant to the media that I create. Okay, topic number 3. This is about imposter syndrome and Fomo. When I follow other creators in the community space, does it make me feel genuinely inspired or empowered, or does it give me feelings of FOMO and being less than? So for the most part, I would say it makes me inspired. I'm inspired to do this tag because I watched Leanne's video. That was so amazing. And I saw this from the Polish folk witch last night and I was like, I want to do that, but also I need to figure out when I can. So I'm just making it happen. After work, just filming this video now. But when I watch other content creators, I would say for the most part, I feel inspired. Envy has not really been something that I have had a lot, to be honest. And I'm not saying that in the sense that there's not been times where I've seen someone have something that I want, because of course, but I look at it more as it gives me more ambition to want to get that for myself. And I love listening to fellow witches here on YouTube. I want to hear what they're reading because maybe I might want to read that. I want to see how they're doing their spell because maybe that might give me a fun idea for how to tweak one of mine. So as far as FOMO, no, or being less than, no, because at the end of the day, there's only one me and there's only one you. And so you just have to do what you do to the best of your abilities because there's only one of you, right? There is no other me on this platform but me. So I'm just going to be me to the best of my abilities. You know what I'm saying? So if I experience FOMO, has it ever left me feeling vulnerable to be taken advantage of financially or otherwise? Girl, hell no. Absolutely not. No. An example would be the need to purchase the latest popular product or book to fit in. Okay. I think everyone can be influenced, but I don't think I've ever gone out of my way to go buy something as an adult. Okay. Definitely when I was a teenager. Of course, you want to fit in with your friends. You want the latest, coolest thing, whatever. As an adult, if I am influenced, it's because I've been sold, right? Like Circe is an absolutely amazing book. I did a book review on it. I watched other people do a book review on it. I heard about it from another creator. In a way, I was influenced to buy that book, but I loved it. And I liked it so much, I actually bought the physical copy, even though I listened to the audiobook because I enjoyed it that much. Same with Slewfoot. I bought that book because I heard other people talk about it. I was like, oh, that kind of seems like it would be up my alley. And it was, and it's probably one of my favorite fiction books still. As far as buying stuff to fit in, no, because I've never fit in really to begin with. And I kind of gave that up a long time ago. That's just not my path. I think that, I'm called here to be an adversary. I'm called here to be a black sheep. I'm called here to be an outsider. And I think that a lot of us witches feel that way. So I don't really feel the need to be part of any one particular clique or even to really be liked necessarily by the wider public. I think that the more you care about what other people have to think and say about how you live your life, or if we're talking about content creation, the media you create, the more toxic that's going to become for you. It becomes a very toxic cycle. It's like when creators hyper focus on their analytics, right? It's not good because we're more than numbers. We are people and we do have feelings, and that shit can really fuck with you. So if I've ever been sold something, I've bought it because I wanted to. Not for the intention of, oh, I want to fit in, or, oh, I want to be liked. It's been like, oh, that looks like a great resource, or that looks really cool. It's the same with makeup. If I'm watching, a makeup influencer and they're sharing products that they're using and talking about why they enjoy them, I might try it out too. Not so much because, I want to fit in, but oh girl, that really works on this specific skin type or whatever. Let me try that because I have that same skin type, But it could very much be the same with magic. When practicing my craft, do I find myself comparing what I do to what I've seen other people do online? Yes and no. I would say that for me, I'm almost always kind of comparing, but it's not so much comparing in the sense of oh, is so-and-so better than me? Or are they doing it the right way? Or blah, blah, blah. It's more okay, how is what they are doing in line with what I do? How is it different? What could I take from what the information they are providing to benefit me, if at all? Why or why not? That's more of the comparing that I do. I think that when it comes to a lot of this, the internet and social media is what you make of it. If you want it to be empowering, if you want it to be educational, if you want it to be connecting, it can be all of those things for you. But if you also want it to be toxic and damaging, it can very much be that too. I mean, it depends on the person who's using it. This forbidden magic, if you will, of the algorithm and social media. It has a spirit in of itself, right? So how you engage with that spirit is your path, and that's your tea, right? If you let that spirit run you, girl, it's gonna run you, period. Okay, next topic. In what ways do I combat imposter syndrome? Now, this one I definitely experience. I don't tend to have FOMO so much, but imposter syndrome, there's definitely been times, especially when I was working on my first book, I'm who the hell am I to be writing this book? Girl, right? And And I think that that's a big thing of what, you know, the power and the magic of friendship can be for. Not to sound corny and My Little Pony, but honestly, I mean, I have some really amazing friends. I'm so like grateful for the support group that I have and the friends that I have, because like if you have at least a handful of people in your life that you can go to for any issue that you're dealing with and just be real and just lay it all out there and be like, this is what I'm feeling. Like, that is such a blessing. And I feel so, so grateful that I have those people in my life like that, because like I'm a Pisces moon. So like we be having some delusional ass moments where sometimes I need my friends to either A, remind me of who the fuck I actually am and be like, girl, or B, hold that space for me. Hold that space for me to be vulnerable and to kind of have a come apart so I can come together. And I try to do that for my friends as well. You know, that's how I combat imposter syndrome. For me, as like a neurospicy girly, clinical depression, anxiety, severe dysphoria and dysmorphia. I've struggled with this my entire life. These are mental illnesses that I'm diagnosed and like medicated for. It's okay to go to other people. Not necessarily saying that you need to go to other people for validation, but if you're dealing with something and if you're struggling with something, you need to reach out to those people if you have them to. Those people are able to kind of meet you where you're at and help bring you up out of it, even just by sitting with you there. And that's what I try to do for my friends as well. Like, it kind of goes both ways. And that's how I combat imposter syndrome. I can remember a few nights where I was crying, very Pisces, crying, wine drunk to a couple of my close friends. Be like, oh my God, I don't know if I could do this book. And they're like, yeah, you can. And you will. And you're going to. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And they're like, you're going to figure it out. And I did, you know. So, friendship, the power of friendship will set you free. What would my practice look like without the social media influence of other creators? You know, I definitely think that all of us creating this content and adding it to the cauldron of the online witchy sphere for information to be pulled at and accessed. I've thought about this too. Are people going to be watching these videos 50 years from now? Like, imagine if Gerald Gardner or Anton LaVey or Doreen Valiente or David Chumbley, you know, some of these influential figures within the occult and witchcraft spaces. Imagine if they had a YouTube and watching their videos, right? 50, 80 years from now, are people going to be watching us? How crazy is that going to be if that's the case? I think that my world would be a lot less colorful if it wasn't for social media. I would not have met the amount of practitioners that I'm able to meet via online. So overall, I definitely think it's a positive. Okay, topic 4, capitalizing off of community. Do I consider online communities as equally as valid as in-person communities? I think that that's very much a blanket statement. Valid? Are these communities valid? Whose opinion really matters? Yours. Whatever the hell I think of it is not really relevant, I think. Is that online community serving you? Are you happy with it? Because if that's the case, then it's valid for you. If we're talking about Covenry, I don't. I know, not everyone's going to love that answer. I don't think that an online coven and an in-person coven is even like comparing the same thing. That's like apples to oranges for me. But that's me. I'm not going to sit up here and say that you can't do X, Y, Z. I have no interest in telling anyone else what they can or can't do. I just know what's true for me. And as someone who's in a coven, as someone who's a part of a tradition, and also someone who's solitary, and someone who's been chronically online for all of my 20s, I don't think it's the same from what I've seen. I don't think it's the same. So for me, I'm going to say, are online communities as equally as valid? It depends on like what specifically we're talking about. But I also think that only you can answer that for yourself, right? I mean, because even with my online friends, like, it's still not the same as us being in person, but does that mean that they're not really my friends? Is our friendship not valid because we've never met in person? I don't think so at all. I think it's very valid. How have online occult and witchcraft communities impacted me as a person and a practitioner? I think I said this earlier, but like, it has made my life so much more colorful. I feel like it has made me a lot more open-minded and explorative because I'm encountering people that I wouldn't necessarily in the real world in my area. And that's cool to be able to interact with and see all different types of people from all different types of backgrounds. And I think it's made me more inquisitive. The fact that the internet and social media is there. And also, sometimes it can be a lot more approachable to learn something from a creator, right? Than it can be to like go enroll in a semester of XYZ. Like, that's so much more formal. Maybe I just want like a 20-minute crash course on XYZ, So overall, like, I think it's made me a better person, and I think it's made me a stronger practitioner. Some of the dangers of the current phenomenon of capitalism off the witchcraft community. Oh my gosh, do you guys remember, I think it was Sephora that had like a makeup box that came with like some lipsticks and like some white sage, and the online witchy community freaked the hell out about it. Like, that's, I think, one example of capitalism and the craft. But also, everyone's got a book, everyone's pushing a course, everyone's pushing a paid platform. It is what it is. I think, honestly, witchcraft is affected by capitalism because the people are affected by capitalism. And we all have to do what we have to do in order to survive. And providing content is an act of service. It very much is. I mean, I personally, as far as Google AdSense revenues for the videos I'm making, like, I'm not making a ton of money by doing these videos. And I'm not complaining about that, but I'm saying, like, if you think that me filming a video and editing it is bringing me all of this capitalistic revenue, girl, get back on Social Blade, look me up. That's not the case. And that's not the case for most content creators. I'm here because I want to be here. Now, can I use my platform to also platform other projects of mine? Sure. And also, I don't think there's any issue with any creator being compensated for things that they are providing, period. So I don't think that really it's necessarily a bad thing. We all have bills, we all gotta eat. Back in the day, maybe you could bring homegirl a chicken for your reading, and that would be a fair trade. How is it any different now that you're paying XYZ amount of money for this psychic reading? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I definitely don't think there's anything wrong if you're receiving a service, or taking a course, or purchasing handmade materials. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And if anything, okay, I think it's better for you to support the witchcraft community in a capitalistic way, okay? I think it's great if there are people locally, witchy stores in your local area that you can support with the power of your dollar. That's what's gonna build local community. That's powerful. And I don't think that that's something that's oftentimes talked about. I mean, usually I hear people kind of griping and moaning about paywalls and, content creators and making money off of spirituality. I don't care. Period. I just don't. Have I been personally affected by this, or have I witnessed someone else affected? We're talking about capitalism. I mean, I've made money. I've been affected by capitalism and the craft through making money. But I have not purchased anything from anyone that I did not want to. Some of you might remember, Blood, Sweat, and Steel, that's here on YouTube, wonderful blacksmith. I commissioned a staying topper from him. I would not have had that connection had it not been for social media. And the fact that I was able to put my money in another witch's pocket and have a witch put their energy into that tool is really fucking cool. And I'd much rather prefer that than like buying a tool from Walmart. You know what I mean? So if anything, I think that it's affected me in a positive way. Should there be paywalled communities and online courses? Yes, absolutely. I think that for me, speaking for myself here, the content that I put on my Patreon is classes and courses in relation to divination, or it's content that I don't want to share with the wider public. And if you want to see that, you can pay $5 a month or $10 a month. And if you don't want to do that, then don't buy it. That's it. No one's forcing you to do anything that you don't want to do. And again, I think that people should be compensated for their time and for their services, right? Now, I'm not saying that you need to throw money at anybody that you just happen to watch on YouTube, but if I'm teaching a pottery class, why would you not pay me for that, right? I'm a barber. If I'm doing your hair, why would you not pay me for that? You pay for your services. I don't know what the entitlement is that some people feel like they have. If you don't think that something is worth buying, don't buy it. Don't buy it, period. How does one ensure the authenticity of courses, workshops, memberships, etc. as a financial investment? How does someone ensure the authenticity? I mean, again, I think that to a degree can kind of go on the consumer. I think that to a degree can kind of go back on the consumer. If you are looking to take someone's course, you should probably know a thing or two about the person who's teaching that course and what their background is and what their credentials are. And if you are not willing to do that baseline minimum amount of effort, I don't know what to tell you, sister girl. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, do your research, background check people. That's it. That's it. And I think you'll be all right. But there's nothing wrong with paying for courses or workshops or memberships, in my opinion. If it's something that you think can bring value to you and to your life and to your practice, pop off. Go for it. In conclusion, what are some topics of conversation I'd like to see more of in our community? I think topics I would like to see more of is people sharing more of their actual UPG, their unverified personal gnosis, or their shared personal gnosis. I would love to see more neo-traditions, more new groups forming and them sharing their tradition and the way that they do things. I would love to see more group magic style related content and UPG. I published my book, my Witchflight book here, and it's all a work of UPG. I would love to see more witches publishing their gnosis, be it self-published or traditionally. I mean, the Witchy 101 books are great, but how many of those do we really need? You know, I think that if we all share our UPG, that's what's going to evolve the spirit of modern craft and take it even further. What are my community needs? I mean, I just like the interaction. I love the engagement. You know, like I've said, if my Google AdSense revenue cuts me a check for X, Y, or Z, that's great. I'm not going to turn down the money. But I also really, really like engagement. I like interacting with you all in the comment section. I love doing live streams, and I love being able to have real, tangible conversations with other practitioners. And I love tags like this. I would love to see more tags like this in our community. Where would I like to feel more held and supported? That's tough. Like, that kind of makes me feel some things. I'm not sure even how to answer that. I think I don't know how to answer that. Where do I feel like I'm not truly being seen by my community? I have always felt othered and different. And I even feel that way even in our community. And I don't know. I mean, I think that I've had to kind of build my own community. I'm a big believer, and like when I came into the witchcraft scene 11 years ago, there wasn't a table for me. So then I just made my own table because that was instinctive for me to do. As a trans woman, I often feel kind of overlooked or not heard or paid attention to. And I don't necessarily think that that's like any one person and the community's fault. And it seems like nowadays queerness in general is like almost kind of trending in a really weird way. Because like that was the shit I was bullied for when I was the first trans woman at my high school. Like, but now it's different, you know? And I was bullied by the faculty, not even the student body. I was bullied by adults. And so that made me get really thick skin. So these past two questions, like, how can I be more held and supported? Or how can I feel more truly seen by the community? Those are like just hard for me. I think I have that more so with my friends than I do like the wider community, because I do just have such a thicker skin, and it's rare sometimes for me to really feel like I can let the walls down completely, especially with the wider internet. Can we help each other in removing the external peer pressure and grow in our community? Gosh, these are like such good questions. They really are. I think by challenging each other, I think questions like these, I think by putting more tags out there for us all to kind of connect in the wider web of networking, and just by holding space for each other, I think that's how we're going to grow. And also by sharing more UPG. I really, really do think that that's going to have a positive influence on the spirit of craft moving forward, right? How can we as a community come together more with constructive criticism without it seeming shady or passive aggressive? I mean, I think also some witches need some thicker skin too. As witches, we're already kind of on the fringe. We're already kind of different. And just because someone might disagree with you or practice differently than you or have a different opinion than you does not mean that they hate you as a person and want you to die. I think that some people take things way too personally, and get over it. How can we as a community do better when we do receive criticism and feedback? The same thing I just said. I think that if someone is just disagreeing with you and there's not even necessarily malicious in there, if someone's like, oh, you do it that way, like here's how I do it and here's why, and that's why that to me is totally different. And like, why should we be taking that so personally? Like, there's this whole aspect of the modern craft right now where just everything is valid, period, just because someone said it's valid. And I don't think that that's true. If this was cooking, if you tell me that you are going to supplement sugar for salt, I'm going to probably think you're a little crazy and that I don't want to eat your cake, period. Am I going to be mean about it? Not necessarily. Girly pop, if you want to substitute the sugar in your cake for salt, you go right ahead. You go right ahead and let me know how it goes too. Let me know how it goes. And if I like you, I might be like, hey, so usually we use sugar because XYZ and blah, blah, blah. And you're putting salt in your cake and girl, I don't know. But if you're just like an internet stranger to me, like I don't even feel the need to have that conversation because it's not even that deep. It really isn't. If you want to eat a salt cake, you go right ahead. Who are some community members that I look up to that are reliable in resources and aspirations? Well, I definitely love Blade and Broom, Lorelei Black. Wonderful Red Thread Academy, wonderful YouTube channel, especially for traditional witchcraft. I also love Taya Kennedy, our Taya Kennedy here on YouTube. Miss her, love her, fabulous, fabulous content. I would say Taryn S. from House of Witchcraft, really lovely, amazing content creator, has some good published work out there, and is enjoyable to watch. I also really like Beanbag Hagwag, Trish, wonderful channel. Very much like watching, like I get auntie vibes really from all of these women. I feel like they are powerful, feminine role models who I just get kind of auntie vibes from, and I love that. Oh, I would also say, of course, Leanne Smith, who I saw this video from. Love their channel. Feels like you're sitting talking with a friend. And the Polish Folk Witch also makes wonderful, great content, and like this tag here. So lastly, add any further thoughts, comments, prompt questions of your own, express further points, and offer solutions. I don't know what more I have to add here. I've been filming for over an hour, so I'm sure this is going to be really fun to kind of edit out and put together here. But yeah, I don't know if I have much more to add. I would like to say that if you see this video, just take it as a sign that I'm tagging you. I would absolutely love to hear what y'all have to say about this tag and these prompts. I really, really enjoyed it. I really liked it, and I would really like to see more of it. I hope that all of you that are participating in the Witch's Black Lent are enjoying it and enjoying your time in sin and blasphemy. And I really think that's it. I feel like I've said enough. I've been filming for over an hour, which is pretty unusual for me. But Polish Folk Witch, this tag is everything. And I'm really excited to watch other people as well. So do make sure that you use the hashtag if you do this challenge so we all can watch each other's videos. Until next time, blessed be, and I will see you in hell.
I got the cash in the bag, stadium packed. Born a rock star in this life, gonna live it up on the attack. Baby, I'm bad, I just wanna get caught up in this life. I'm crazy, I'm mad, doing no cap. Only God wants you, better go live it up. Cash in the bag, stadium packed. Baby, I'm bad,
yeah.
Baby, I'm bad.
I just wanna stay bad, stay mad. Chip on my shoulder cause they treat me like an outcast. I ain't gonna take that, stay back. I'll be swinging hard till the hits come in all caps. I ain't gonna lay back, pray that someone's gonna help me. Ain't nobody like that. I ain't gonna wait, that's all fact. Give me one shot and I'll never get the throne back. I'm sick of being cautious, I'ma go cause something, can't stop this. I'ma steal everybody's lane, call it shoplift. Sick of hearing everyone complain when they thoughtless. Taste the pain, it's like candy.